You begin where everything seems still under soft soil, under sleeping roots. Beneath the quiet hum of nighttime wind, the ground is cool, familiar. You've walked across it all your life, but tonight you pause and listen deeper. Beneath your feet, a different world lives. You imagine peeling back layers, like the pages of a forgotten book. The topsoil crumbles first, loose and dry. Beneath that lies clay, dense and damp, shaped by rain and time. Deeper still, rocks nestle together, packed tight as memories, pressed by weight and silence. With each layer, you leave behind the world of birdsong and breezes. You begin your descent into Earth's long-held secret. Down here, it's not silent. The Earth breathes slowly the way a sleeping giant does. You can almost hear it, the faint groan of shifting plates, the slow drip of mineral-rich water, the soft hiss of gases finding their way through cracks. Nothing moves quickly. Patience is law beneath the crust. Your imagination moves downward, and pressure builds like the hush of a held breath. The rocks around you become denser, darker, and hotter. You have crossed into the mantle's edge, the slow, simmering sea of semi-solid rock. It doesn't boil or bubble like a kettle. Instead, it flows in aching slow motion, like honey that forgot it was supposed to move. The mantle is not fire, not in the way a campfire dances in the night, but it holds heat like a memory, a warmth stored for billions of years. It is a sea of stone, not water. The currents that flow here are invisible hands that shape continents, mountains, and oceans. You feel them brushing past you silent, unstoppable. Your breath slows. You feel the weight above you. Every kilometer deeper adds layers of time and pressure. The atoms here are pressed so tightly, they hum with silent intensity. The very minerals are transformed, changing shape as if trying to become something stronger. And still, you descend. Now the outer core greets you, a place of molten metal. Here the earth glows with its inner pulse. Liquid iron and nickel swirl in mighty convective loops, spinning like storm systems beneath the crust. These churning flows create something invisible and essential: Earth's magnetic field, that silent shield that wraps the planet in protection, guarding it from solar winds and cosmic sparks. Without this inner motion, the skies above would be far less gentle. You feel suspended in this sea of metal, where the heat is unimaginable, and yet, somehow contained. It doesn't erupt, not yet. It turns, it pulses, it waits. Deeper still, at Earth's very heart, the solid inner core holds its ground. You imagine it a sphere of pure iron, frozen in pressure, surrounded by the swirling heat of the outer core. It's hotter than the surface of the sun, and yet, it doesn't melt. That's how powerful the pressure is here, enough to keep metal solid at impossible temperatures. This heart beats without sound. It doesn't echo or thrum. It is a stillness so dense, it defies your senses. You imagine touching it, your fingers trembling at the edge of physics and wonder. This is where the story of eruptions begins, not in flame, but in silence. For millions of years, heat from this core travels slowly outward, rising through the mantle like ghostly smoke. Sometimes it gathers, collecting in soft pockets, caught beneath the rigid crust above. These are magma chambers, hidden cauldrons of molten rock that sleep for centuries, waiting for the right moment to rise. One of them lies beneath your feet now, a supervolcano, not yet awake. You can't see it, not from the surface. It doesn't wear a sharp, dramatic cone. Its slopes are gentle, spread wide across the landscape. People walk above it every day, unaware that they tread upon a sleeping giant. The caldera, a vast sunken bowl, is all that hints at the power beneath. You stand at the edge of that caldera in your mind. It feels peaceful. Grasses ripple in the wind, birds cry overhead, but below, kilometers below, molten rock churns in silence. This is a place of potential, of pressure accumulating across time. The supervolcano doesn't threaten. It doesn't call out. It simply exists, waiting. Geologists study these places with careful eyes and sensitive instruments. They listen for tremors too small for humans to feel. They measure gases rising from cracks. They track the shape of the land, watching for subtle swelling, the Earth's way of taking a breath before speaking. You picture it now, a single breath, deep and invisible, lifting the Earth's skin ever so slightly. What is it saying? What might it do? You drift here, held between calm and possibility. You don't fear the volcano. You feel its rhythm, the slow way it builds its voice across millennia. Its eruptions are not random. They are expressions of balance, lost, of pressure too great to hold. And yet, even the largest eruption begins with a whisper. You wonder what life near these sleeping giants feels like, the way locals live beside calderas, growing crops in rich volcanic soil, soaking in warm springs, telling stories passed down like lullabies. To them the volcano is both giver and taker, a being of patience, a teacher of cycles. As your thoughts rise back through the layers, you carry with you a new sense of time. Down here, nothing is fast, everything is earned slowly: shape, heat, eruption, silence. And so you return, gently, to the surface world. You feel the ground beneath your back as you lie in bed, still and listening. Somewhere, far below, a chamber of fire waits without urgency, and above it a planet spins on, unaware of the breath it holds. Perhaps you will sleep now, wrapped in this knowledge. Perhaps you will dream of heat that waits, of magma that listens, of forces that shape the very land you love. But as you drift, a thought flickers. If such power sleeps beneath our feet, what wakes it? You stand beneath a sleeping giant. It doesn't breathe fire or thunder. It doesn't stretch angrily into the clouds. No smoke curls from its rim. No tremor shakes your feet. And yet, it is powerful beyond imagining. This is not a mountain in the usual sense. This is a caldera, a wound in the earth where a world once erupted, a place where the land fell in on itself, not from weakness but from strength unleashed. This is the memory of a supervolcano, and though it is quiet now, you can feel the story it holds in its bones. You touch the rock and feel warmth, not of temperature but of time. These layers of ash, stone and silence whisper a history that stretches far beyond human lifespans. It's hard to believe something so still could have once changed the sky. But that's the nature of the truly powerful. They don't always shout. Sometimes they wait. Volcanoes come in many forms. There are the stratovolcanoes, tall and conical, dramatic storytellers of the earth. They erupt with energy, short-lived and striking, reshaping landscapes with each outburst. And then there are shield volcanoes, low and broad, spreading lava like honey over the land. Their eruptions are gentler, slower, more like sighs than screams. But supervolcanoes, they are neither cone nor shield. They are vast chambers beneath your feet, invisible until it's too late. They don't build mountains, they hollow them. They don't erupt often, only when the world forgets what they're capable of. To be a supervolcano, it's not about height or shape, it's about volume. A supervolcanic eruption is classified by its sheer scale, more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of material ejected in a single event. Imagine burying a country in ash. Imagine the sun dimming for years. Imagine a change so immense that species shift, climates alter, and life stumbles. You walk along the edge of the caldera, feeling the silence stretch out like a canvas. No birds sing here. The grass grows, yes, but with a patience earned over thousands of years. Beneath your steps, the earth remembers. The magma chamber below, it's not angry, not ready, but it is there, and it grows, particle by particle, millimeter by millimeter, each drop of melted rock rising from the mantle like breath held too long. The pressure mounts slowly, not in hours or days but in centuries. You picture a balloon swelling imperceptibly, not from air but from time itself. The crust above thins, bulges, strains, but nothing gives. Not yet. Supervolcanoes are not frequent, they are rare punctuation marks in Earth's long letter. The last one to truly roar was Toba, in Indonesia some 74,000 years ago. It may have changed the climate for years, perhaps even altered the course of early humanity. And before that, Yellowstone left scars across what is now North America. 3 colossal eruptions, each more immense than nearly anything witnessed by humankind. But still the Earth keeps secrets. Most of our planet's surface lies under oceans, or lost to erosion, or buried beneath cities. Many supervolcanoes may have risen and fallen without a trace. Others still wait beneath our feet, quietly dreaming in stone, and yet fear isn't what fills you, it's awe. A reverence for a force that reshapes the planet, not with cruelty, but with purpose. You realize how temporary everything above the crust is, how mountains, rivers and forests are only pauses between breaths. The planet speaks not in years but in eons, and a supervolcano is one of its slowest, deepest syllables. You sit for a moment and breathe with the land. The wind moves softly through ancient grass. You hear the hush of time, not ticking but flowing like magma, quiet and unseen, reshaping the world from underneath. There's a humility in understanding scale, that you are here now in a sliver of calm between events too large to measure. Not to fear them, but to know them. To understand what lies beneath your steps, your cities, your certainties. It is the Earth dreaming in deep time. The supervolcano does not announce itself. It gathers, and when the time comes it does not simply erupt, it transforms. But tonight, it sleeps. And so do you, cradled in the patience of geology, wrapped in the quiet strength of rock. Your thoughts drift with the steam rising from distant vents, carried on winds that once circled an ash-darkened globe. And in that drifting, a question begins to form. What happens in the heart of such a vast eruption? What is it like, not from above, but from within? You walk slowly across a wide open plain, where the sky seems endless, and the air hums with quiet life. Bison graze nearby, their shaggy coats brushing softly against the wind. Their breath forms gentle clouds in the cool morning light, and their hooves leave soft impressions in the golden earth. You follow a winding trail through tall grasses and scattered wildflowers, your footsteps muffled, almost reverent. Beneath you, deep within the earth, something stirs. You cannot see it, not with your eyes, but you feel it. A warmth, ancient and steady, like a sleeping heartbeat under the soil. It has been here for millions of years, not roaring or destructive, but resting, breathing, dreaming. This is the Yellowstone caldera, a supervolcano hidden in plain sight, cradled beneath forests, rivers, and gently steaming valleys. You pause near a hot spring. The water is impossibly clear, tinted with vibrant blues and greens, edged with orange and yellow. Bubbles rise from deep below, as if the earth is exhaling through its scattered pores. You kneel to watch the steam curl and twist into the air, dancing like something alive. You don't touch the water, it's too hot, but you listen. There is a subtle sound beneath the hiss, a low rumble faint as a memory. This land is alive. It breathes heat and gas through vents and cracks. It speaks in geysers and thermal pools, in mud pots that burble like soup left to simmer. The crust here is thin, only a few kilometers between your feet and the vast chamber of molten rock beneath. You walk on, moving gently, as if not to wake something sleeping. Long ago the earth opened here with unimaginable force. There were eruptions, great ones, vast and world-changing. The last was more than 600,000 years ago. But even now the magma remains. It hasn't gone. It lingers, stretching beneath the park like a glowing lung. Seismic waves pass through it. Instruments detect its slow changes. It is not dangerous today, not truly, but it is not gone. The earth remembers. You stop at a geyser just before it erupts. The pressure builds. You feel it not as fear, but as anticipation. Then suddenly, with a rush and roar, water leaps into the air, shining in the sunlight, soaring skyward like a liquid prayer. For a moment, all else falls silent. You watch the water fall back down, in slow motion, glistening, cooling. Then the calm returns. Geysers are like the earth's breath held and released. Heat from below boils groundwater trapped in rock. It escapes upward in a burst, then rests again. These cycles are reminders that even stillness contains motion, that calm is not the absence of energy, but its quiet arrangement. A raven lands nearby and watches you with knowing eyes. You wonder what it sees, what memories pass from feather to feather, from tree to stone, in this ancient place. You keep moving, down toward a river that winds past steam vents and fallen trees. Everything is shaped by warmth. Even the trees seem to lean toward it, as if remembering the fire deep within the earth. You sit by the riverbank and close your eyes. The ground beneath you is warm. Not hot, just comfortingly warm, like a hand placed on your back. You imagine the magma far below, glowing gently, like a fire beneath a thick blanket. It does not need to speak loudly to be heard. Its presence is enough. This place, Yellowstone, is not a place of fear. It is a place of balance between heat and cold, silence and eruption, sleep and slow awakening. The earth has many voices, and here, one of them hums beneath your body like a lullaby for the ages. You begin to understand that a supervolcano isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes it is this, a peaceful plain with grazing bison, a hot spring wrapped in mist, a distant geyser calling out once an hour, all of it stitched together by a deep, slow breath. You remember that even your own breath echoes this rhythm. Inhale, pause, exhale, rest. The earth breathes like you do, only on a different scale, stretched across eons instead of moments. You are part of this, not separate. A single breath in the long dreaming of the world, and then a curious question stirs inside you, gentle but persistent. If Yellowstone is one breath of fire, resting beneath trees and rivers, how many others are there? What other calderas sleep across the surface of the earth, veiled in mountains or buried under ocean depths? You rise, stepping softly back toward the trail, and carry the question with you, not in worry, but in wonder. There are other places, you sense, where the land remembers fire, where stone melts in secret chambers, where pressure builds slowly, like a thought still forming, where the earth's great dreams continue, unseen but ever present. The morning sun drips slowly over the edge of a rust-colored plateau, its warmth soaking into the stillness of ancient rock. You stand there, boots pressing lightly into the gravel, surrounded by silence, the kind that only time itself can shape. The breeze is dry, carrying with it the faint scent of minerals and dust, a whisper from worlds that once were. Before you, layers of earth stretch outward like the pages of a book, not one written in ink, but in lava, ash, and sediment. Each band of color in the stone tells a story, quietly waiting to be heard. Gray lines mark ancient floods, rusted reds sing of iron and fire. There is yellow, the shade of sulfur, and deep black, the hardened breath of volcanoes. You kneel beside a slab of rock, split open by the slow hands of erosion. A geologist places a brush in your hand, the bristles worn soft with time and use. Gentle, they whisper, as though addressing a memory. You sweep delicately across the surface, revealing a fern frozen in stone, perfect, preserved, silent. It is a leaf that once trembled in wind, long before humans were ever here to notice. Now, it lies immortal in shale. This is Earth's diary, and you are learning to read it. Slowly, in the soft language of geology, time stretches like taffy, not in years or decades, but in epochs and eras. You begin to see the difference. 1,000 years becomes a footnote, a million, a breath. The layers under your feet are not just dirt, they are lifetimes, whole civilizations of coral reefs and forests that rose and fell before history began to speak. You walk along the rim of an ancient caldera. Once this place would have thundered with the fury of a supervolcano, the sky dark with ash, the land scoured clean. But now, it's a peaceful meadow, grasses swaying softly, birds nesting in the cracks of old lava flows. Renewal always follows eruption, and the earth, in its own slow rhythm, heals. A thin line of obsidian cuts through the basalt, gleaming like black glass in the light. It formed in an instant, a river of molten rock cooled so quickly it became smooth, sharp, and dark. You run your fingers along it, and feel the contrast, rough to smooth, ancient to sudden. It's a reminder that the earth doesn't always move slowly. Sometimes, change strikes like lightning. Your guide points to a wall of sediment rising from a canyon floor, the cross-section of a story told in vertical scroll. She shows you a band of pale ash trapped between darker soils. This, she says, was from a supervolcanic eruption 640,000 years ago, Yellowstone. You blink, trying to picture it as sky eclipsed, continents dusted in silence. But all that remains is this sliver of white, like a pause in the earth's breath. The deeper you go, the more the earth reveals. Petrified logs lie where ancient forests once stood. You touch one wood that has turned to stone, yet still holds the memory of bark and grain. Minerals have seeped into every cell, replacing what was lost with quartz and jasper. It is both tree and not tree, alive and no longer living, still telling its story. You reach a cave carved by water long since vanished. Inside, the walls glisten with mineral veins, iron, copper, calcium. They trace patterns like constellations. The air smells cool and ancient. You listen, but the cave does not echo. It absorbs sound, holds it, swallows it whole, like time, like memory. Here you begin to realize something. The earth is not a place, it is a process, a becoming. Everything you see, every rock, every fossil, every shimmering vein, is mid-sentence in a conversation that began billions of years ago and hasn't ended yet. Outside, the sun begins to dip once more, casting long shadows across the outcrop. You sit on a boulder, warmed by the day's light. The geologist beside you opens a weathered field journal, sketching layers in careful strokes. Her pencil moves like wind across paper, mapping time in lid and thought. Why does the earth keep such detailed records, you ask? She smiles softly. Because forgetting is too easy, and remembering shapes everything. You watch the horizon blush with twilight. Somewhere deep below your feet, the planet still stirs slowly, building pressure, shifting plates, weaving together the next chapter. You think of the volcanoes sleeping beneath ice, the ones you've yet to see. You think of magma chambers growing heavy with heat, and wonder when or if they'll speak again. The stone holds its silence, but you are learning to listen. Above, stars begin to appear, not suddenly, but one by one, like old stories remembered. They too have their layers, their scars, their eruptions and rebirths, and somewhere out there, other planets may be keeping their own geological journals, buried in ice and silence, waiting for someone or something to read them. You breathe in the cool night air, and close your eyes, hearing the earth not as noise, but as presence. Steady, deep, ancient. And as the wind moves across the rock face once more, brushing softly against time itself, you feel a gentle pull, a curiosity forming about what lies beneath the ice, about the worlds that hide in the coldest corners of Earth, about secrets locked not in fire, but in frost. You open your eyes, but it is not your world you see. It is a world long gone, a memory suspended in time, waiting for you. The light is strange here, dim not from dusk, but from something heavier. The air is dust thick, a grey breath that lingers. You stand in silence at the edge of a high ridge, looking down upon a wide plain, and then you feel it, the pulse of the earth beneath your feet. It had begun days ago, or perhaps weeks' time feels uncertain in this memory. First came the trembling, small and rhythmic, like a giant breathing in its sleep. Then came the groaning, the deep belly roar of pressure too long trapped. And then, at last, it broke. A column of ash and fire, wider than mountains, rose skyward like a second sun, black and blinding. A supereruption, not just an eruption, but a tearing of the world's skin. The ground beneath you is no longer stable. Trees sway not with wind, but with the force of the earth convulsing. The sky grows dark by mid-morning. Daylight is swallowed. Ash rains down like snow, soft but suffocating. It blankets the fields, the rivers, the rooftops of villages that once sang with laughter. Everything muffled now, even sound is quieter. You try to call out, but your voice feels lost in the thickness. This is not a volcanic eruption like the ones in stories. This is something deeper, slower, more permanent. You feel it in your chest, the world holding its breath. They call it a supervolcano, but it does not look like a cone or a towering peak. No, these giants sleep in calderas, great sunken basins, wide as cities, hidden under lakes and forests, silent until they awaken. And when they do not speak in fire alone, they speak in silence. Ash clouds rise past the stratosphere. You imagine them from above, plumes curling like ghostly ink in water, drifting across the planet. Sunlight scatters, filtered by the fine particles. In days the world cools. In weeks it begins to change. You walk through fields once golden with wheat now grey, barren, dead. Leaves hang limp, crops do not sprout. The seasons stumble. Summer feels like autumn, autumn like winter. The sun is still there behind the veil, but its warmth barely touches the skin. Famine whispers, not in screams, but in quiet absences. Fewer birds, fewer bees, fewer footsteps on the road. You visit distant lands through this memory, across oceans, where no ash falls, but where the sky dims all the same. The climate is not local. The hunger is not local. Volcanic winter has come. You watch humans adapt, their ingenuity rising, even as crops fall. Some try greenhouses, others migrate. Stories pass around the fires of the time when day turned to night, when the air was sharp with sulfur, and the stars were lost behind clouds. You wonder how many times this has happened before. Yellowstone, Toba, names spoken in reverent hush by geologists, by those who read the history of Earth, written in layers of rock. Each name a scar, each scar a whisper of time stretched thin. You feel the rhythm of the Earth, not days or months, but cycles of hundreds of thousands of years. Supereruptions are rare, but their echoes last. You look down at your hands, coated in ash, and wonder how something so quiet could reshape the world. No firestorms, no monsters, just a breath held too long by the planet, and then a sigh that changed everything. You close your eyes again, and feel the weight of that sigh. It doesn't end with the eruption. The aftermath lingers for years. Global temperatures drop by degrees. Crops fail across continents. Glaciers inch forward. Civilizations, already fragile, bend under the cold, and some break. And yet, in the silence, in the cold, something else begins. New seeds, new stories, new ways of living. You trace your fingers through volcanic ash, now hardened into soil rich, dark, strangely fertile. Centuries later, forests will return. Life does not disappear. It pauses, pivots, and begins again in different form. Supereruptions do not destroy the planet. They remind it how to change. You return to the ridge, the beginning of this memory. The sky is still dark, but your eyes adjust. You see outlines of hills, shadows of birds that have not flown away. Even in devastation, some things remain. Even under ash, embers of life glow. You take one last breath in this world, not your own. The air is gritty but real. It tastes like endings, but also beginnings. The ground beneath you is quieter now. The earth has exhaled, for now. The ground is quiet now. The sky, once torn by thunderous fire, has settled into soft grey. You walk across a world cloaked in silence, a vast canvas of ash, soot and silence. It feels like everything has ended here. But you know better. Beneath your feet, a secret orchestra is tuning. The ash, still warm in places, isn't just a grave, it's a cradle. You kneel and scoop some of it in your hand. It slips through your fingers like powdered memory, fine and ancient. This is volcanic soil, rich with minerals, rich with promise. It carries whispers of birth, even after violent death. Volcanoes tear, but they also give. They burn forests, yes, but they feed valleys. They crush, but they also sculpt, and in time they become nurseries. Imagine a fern spore, no larger than a grain of salt, buried in that grey veil. For years, maybe decades, it lies still held in a patient trance, but ash is not a prison. It is a pause. You notice the smallest hint of green at the edge of a scorched boulder, a sprout, daring and new. It makes you pause, not because it is rare, but because it is ancient. Plants have always known how to wait. In Indonesia, after Mount Krakatoa's colossal eruption in 1883, the island was left desolate, a wasteland of pumice and silence. But just 40 years later, the slopes shimmered green again. Pioneer species lichens, mosses, grasses danced first. Then came shrubs, then forests. Each layer of life softened the ground for the next. You think about that, the way life doesn't rush, but it always arrives. You think of the microbes too, deep in the soil, the unseen engineers of renewal. They're among the first to return after an eruption, digesting minerals, breaking rocks, preparing the stage for moss and root. And it strikes you how alive the earth is, even in grief. It doesn't move on, it transforms, even in the smoking crater of Mount Smate. Helen's life re-emerged, not despite the destruction, but through it. Pocket gophers tunneled under the ash, stirring the soil, mixing the nutrients, carrying seeds. Insects buzzed through the haze, carrying pollen like tiny lanterns. Salamanders wriggled back into burrows. A new kind of wildness, quiet and fragile, returned. And you realize something beautiful. Destruction isn't the end of the story, it's the soil for the next one. You let your breath slow. Here, on this cooling slope, you can feel the rhythm of recovery. It is not loud, it is not fast, but it is unstoppable. There's a lesson in the way fireweed blooms tall, magenta, fearless on fresh lava fields. A message in the seeds that can survive in darkness, pressed under stone for 100 years, and still awaken. You realize survival isn't always resistance. Sometimes it's simply waiting. You remember stories of entire forests that owe their renewal to flame. Some pine cones, sealed tight with resin, only open in the heat of fire. They wait for centuries dormant, sealed still until the blaze releases their potential. Isn't it strange, you think, how some lives require destruction to begin? Beneath the surface, even now, roots reach. They explore, map, and anchor, and above ground the winds change. They carry spores, drop pollen, rustle the ash. They are fingers brushing dust from forgotten canvases. Volcanoes do not ask for forgiveness, but life doesn't wait for permission either. It returns. You glance up, the sky has begun to clear. Pale sunlight slips through a veil of lingering haze, dappling the land in quiet gold. There are no sounds of birdsong yet, but you feel them coming like the first notes of a melody remembered. You walk further, your steps soft. Each footfall stirs a puff of ash, and each puff is a reminder that this place, though silenced, is listening. A beetle skitters past. A butterfly lands on a stone, wings twitching. These small beings are scouts of hope, tender agents of restoration. They do not rebuild with haste, but they rebuild. You sit and breathe in this moment. The air smells of dust and mineral, but beneath it you can almost taste something green. Soon the fungi will return, mycelial threads weaving through the ground like soft lightning, connecting roots, sharing water, speaking in molecules. The forest in time will return as a whisper, then a murmur, then a chorus. And what is a forest but a memory of persistence? A song that never forgets its tune, no matter how often it is interrupted. As you sit, a thought comes gently to you. Life is not fragile, it is patient. And in this patience there is wisdom, because to wait is not to be idle. To wait is to prepare, to endure. Even the volcano itself, that giant, that fury, will one day host trees on its flanks again. Birds will nest in its scars, and in its crater, lakes will form. New stories will rise where fire once raged. You watch as a gust of wind lifts a layer of fine ash, revealing darker, moister soil beneath. The earth exhales, and with it you feel a quiet strength stirring. Not everything needs to bloom today. Not everything needs to heal fast. Some things need only the promise that in time they will. The ash will fade, the roots will deepen, and the green will come again. Just as the next chapter begins to take root in your mind. If life can rise from this, from fire and silence and soot, then where else might it be hiding? What other shadows, what other extremes, might still cradle life, waiting? You are standing on a high ridge, the wind curling softly around your shoulders. Below you lies a quiet plain, dusted with the memory of ash. The earth breathes gently now, but you can feel it a pulse, buried deep. The ground has not always been still. There was a time when fire nearly ended everything. 74,000 years ago, Lake Toba in what is now Indonesia erupted. Not just a volcano, a supervolcano. You close your eyes and listen. First, the deep groan of rising pressure. Then the sharp roar as Earth's crust tears apart. Then silence, broken only by the scream of sky. You imagine it. A plume of molten earth hurls upward, reaching 40 kilometers into the air. A bloom of fire taller than any mountain. The explosion is so vast it leaves a hole 100 kilometers wide. Lava rains. Lightning dances in volcanic clouds. The sun disappears veiled behind a sky turned black with ash. The world grows cold, and somewhere in this darkness small groups of early humans huddle together. Fires flicker dimly, smoke curls upward. Their eyes are wide, uncertain. They do not know what has happened, but the sky is wrong, the air is wrong. The animals have fled, and the plants no longer grow. Their world, already fragile, has shifted beneath them. You walk among them, unseen like a ghost traveling through memory. You see families sheltering in caves, wrapped in furs and fear. You feel the hunger in their bones, the quiet grief in their silence. This is not the story of thousands. It is the story of a few, perhaps fewer than 10,000 people survived in total. Some estimates whisper a number as low as 2,000. That is almost nothing. You breathe in the weight of that. One species, nearly erased by a single breath of earth. The genetic record tells the tale, a bottleneck, a thinning, a moment where our tree of life narrowed to a slender stem. Like a river squeezed through a canyon, humanity barely slipped through. Yet, they did. You reach down and touch the cave wall, its surface cool and ancient. One woman tends the fire, slowly feeding it dried grass. She hums under her breath a low vibrating sound, like wind through hollow bone. It calms the children. Her voice is the first music. She does not know you're watching, but her life echoes in your blood. Her DNA still lives in you, a single strand passed on against impossible odds. In her resilience, there is something beautiful, something defiant. Outside the cave, the air remains dim, sulfur clings to the wind. Ash snows down like soft grey feathers. The sunlight is a memory. Temperatures drop. Across the globe, forests die back. Rivers freeze. For 1,000 years the planet shivers beneath a volcanic winter. But in small pockets, tucked into corners of Africa, India, and perhaps coastal Asia, humans survive. They adapt. They wait. They whisper. They remember. You follow their trail across time. Over generations they begin to move again. The skies clear, the earth warms. Fire becomes more than survival. It becomes ceremony, story, light. Around flames, new languages are born. Myths are shaped from the memory of darkness. Children are told of the sky that once vanished, and the ancestors who endured. The Toba eruption is not just a natural disaster. It is a mirror showing how close we came to being forgotten, but also how deep our roots are. You think of the woman in the cave again, her small song, her hands cupping the flame. That fire has never gone out. You feel it now, not in the ashes of Toba, but in the glow of city lights, the flicker of screens, the warmth of a campfire. In every spark there is a thread of that ancient survival. You are not separate from her. You are the continuation. As you walk forward through the centuries, the earth slowly greens again. Forests reclaim the land. Rivers swell and twist. Life returns, and so does curiosity. From those narrow bands of survivors, humanity begins again, not just rebuilding but expanding. Moving across continents, learning to shape stone and pigment, to carve bone into needles, to paint the stories of stars and animals across cave ceilings. You enter one of these painted caves. In the flickering torchlight, red ochre figures leap and dance. The past speaks here not in words, but in lines and symbols, and somewhere deep within is the echo of the eruption, a memory of fire, embedded not just in soil but in soul. You pause, listen. There is something profound about almost vanishing, about knowing how close the silence came. It humbles you, it sharpens your wonder. It makes you hold this moment, your breath, your warmth, your life a little more gently. Toba was not the first eruption, it won't be the last. Earth has always pulsed with fire beneath its skin, but now we know the signs. We understand the layers of ash, the chemical traces in ice, the clues left behind in stone and story. We are learning to listen to the earth, but we are also learning to listen to ourselves, to the fragility and the tenacity that make us human. You take one last look at the caldera, a lake now, still and glassy, hiding the fury beneath. Trees rim its edge, clouds drift above, birds fly. The world once again is alive, and just beneath the surface, the story lingers. How does a species come back from the brink? How do we carry both the fear and the flame? How did this near extinction shape what came next? The way we spread, the way we think, the way we dream. You turn slowly, following the warmth of the next fire. You are standing at the edge of a quiet meadow, and far beyond on the horizon, a mountain breathes smoke into the sky. At first glance, it seems distant, too far away to matter, but something inside you knows better. The air carries a scent not of flowers or pine, but of ash. You breathe in, and the world begins to shift. The eruption came like a thunderclap, a sudden opening of Earth's deep lungs, but you were not there when it happened. You are only here for the aftermath, the long, slow exhale of dust and shadow. Volcanic ash, though born in a single violent moment, drifts softly, like snow, across oceans and continents. It does not need permission. It simply travels a silent passenger on upper winds. High above your head, in the invisible lanes of the stratosphere, ash particles circle the globe. You imagine them there, caught in icy winds, veiling the sun. Each particle is impossibly small, no bigger than a speck of flour, and yet together they form a curtain drawn across the sky. The light that reaches your skin feels weaker now, like a memory of summer. Sunsets lengthen, deepen. The colors shift to bruised violets and burnt orange, made beautiful by disaster. You are not cold yet, but the earth is beginning to change its temperature. A supervolcano's ash can linger in the sky for years. Like a mood that will not lift, it blots the warmth and dulls the seasons. Rain patterns change. The land dries where it once flooded, and floods where it once bloomed. Crops begin to fail, not because the soil has turned bad, but because the rhythm has been broken. The clock of sunlight and growing things now ticks irregularly, like a heart skipping beats. You walk through an orchard that did not blossom this spring. The trees wait patiently, not knowing that patience may not help. The bees are late or gone. The wind is cold at the wrong time. You hear the whisper of leaves, but they carry no promise. In faraway places where the volcano is just a name, just a footnote in the news, the markets are thinning. Grain, rice, fruit, milk, all becoming scarce. And you understand now that the sky does not belong to borders. It is one sky, and ash moves freely through it, pressing its thumbprint on all it touches. You trace its path not by maps, but by consequences. Frost visits in summer, rivers shrink or rise with no warning. The monsoons stumble, the people begin to move. Not all at once, but in trickles, in quiet waves. Families leave their homes in search of food, warmth, balance. Some head toward the equator, others cling to ancient highlands where they think the air will remember them. You meet them in stories, in statistics, in the ghost towns they leave behind. You hear the echo of history. Tambora, 1815. Krakatoa, 1883. You say the names like spells. You remember what came after, a year without summer, snow in June, famines in China, riots in Europe, the great migration of seeds and songs and sorrow. The volcano does not care where its dust falls. It only opens its mouth and breathes. And yet from that breath comes more than ruin. It is strange but true, the same ash that blocks sunlight also paints the sky in fire. The same cooling that brings frost also calms the tropics. Some hurricanes fail to form, some diseases retreat in the cold. The balance is never simple, never fair, but it is real. You sit in a field now, the same one you began in, but the world has changed around you, and within you, you look up. The clouds are high and streaked with fine soot. You feel their weight though they float above you. It is not heavy on your body, it is heavy in your understanding. The breath of the giant is not just wind and ash, it is the memory of connection. You realize every eruption touches more than the ground it tears. It touches weather, hunger, migration, even memory. You picture the first humans who fled a cooling age, crossing land bridges, dusted with ash. You picture artists painting crimson skies after Krakatoa, not knowing they were capturing a volcanic whisper. You picture yourself right here, now knowing that even the quiet between eruptions is shaped by what came before. You take one more breath. It tastes like stone, like distance, like time. And as the sky fades from lavender to blue, you begin to wonder if the earth can change the sky. Can the sky ever change the earth again? Perhaps it already has. Perhaps the next chapter begins with a whisper, not from below but from above. You walk across a quiet volcanic plain, feeling the soft tremble of the ground beneath your feet, not from danger, but from memory. The earth, ancient and breathing, shifts ever so slightly beneath your boots. Molten rivers lie hidden in slumber, wrapped in stone blankets. You are not alone. All around you, invisible companions, sensors, satellites, measuring tools keep vigil. They are the quiet watchers. You reach a small metal hut tucked into a slope. Inside, a seismograph ticks like a heartbeat. Every flutter, every pulse is captured in its trembling lines. These are the Earth's whispers, gentle, sometimes erratic, often unreadable without deep listening. You close your eyes and picture the needle drawing tiny hills and valleys across paper, like a child sketching the moods of a restless world. You are learning to read these moods. Each vibration tells a story, a low, steady hum, perhaps magma stretching below, a sudden sharp spike, a fracture rock giving way. Like listening to a distant drum through thick fog, the signals are faint, but with time, they become familiar. You begin to understand. Volcanoes speak in rhythm, and science is how we translate their tongue. Above you, satellites orbit the Earth, silver feathers circling a blue egg. Their cameras are tuned to changes invisible to your eyes: ground inflation, sulfur clouds, tiny shifts in color and temperature. They see volcanoes the way dreams see people, through patterns, pulses, outlines of intent. You imagine the satellite's lens blinking gently each time it passes overhead, like a watchful guardian tracing the breath of sleeping giants. Then come the gas sniffers, instruments perched on ridges, in drones, even carried by scientists like sacred offerings. They measure sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, water vapor. These gases whisper tales of magma's movement, rising, churning, preparing. To smell them is to smell the Earth's cooking breath, to feel the tension of heat pressing against rock, seeking escape. But it is not just machines that listen. You imagine a scientist sitting under a canvas tarp, rain tapping gently above. She stares at the blinking lights of her instruments, cross-referencing numbers, mapping tremors. Her coffee is cold, her notes scribbled with care. She's been here days. She does not need fireworks to feel the volcano. She listens for patterns in silence, for that subtle, unshakable feeling that something is changing. Monitoring a volcano is like watching someone you love fall ill. You see things others miss: the way they pause before speaking, the shift in their eyes, the way their voice trembles when nothing's wrong. Volcanoes are the same. Their warnings are soft, patient, even kind if you know how to see. In another part of the world, a team watches the same volcano from a monitoring center. Walls lined with screens blink with multicolored graphs, signals from seismometers, GPS stations, infrared cameras. Each chart is a voice in the chorus, and the scientists are conductors trying to understand the tune. A sudden swelling here, a tilt there. Is it the start of something, or just a twitch? They speak quietly, as though afraid to wake something. You drift through this room, hovering like a ghost among the machines. There's a sense of reverence, not fear, but respect. The volcano is not a villain to be stopped. It is a force to be understood, anticipated, and respected. The watchers do not try to silence the mountain. They try to listen. Somewhere deep underground, magma pulses forward by a centimeter. No one sees it, but an alert pings. A satellite photo from 2 days ago reveals the slope is lifting barely, but enough. A new line appears on a graph. A young scientist's hand hovers over the keyboard. She frowns. She doesn't know what it means yet, but she will. All these layers of observation, the ground-based, the airborne, the orbital, are threads in a vast, quiet net. This net does not catch eruptions, it catches hints. And those hints, gathered over days, weeks, even decades, allow us to speak to volcanoes as partners in an uneasy dialogue. You feel a sense of wonder, walking along this edge of science and intuition. Not long ago, people had no warning. The earth would break, and fire would rain down, and we could only run. But now we listen, and in listening, we earn time. Sometimes days, sometimes hours, sometimes just enough. Still we cannot predict. We forecast, we assess likelihood. We weigh possibility. A volcano may give every signal of eruption and sleep for years, or none at all, and erupt by surprise. It is like reading the eyes of a cat, inscrutable, wild, sometimes playful, sometimes deadly. You walk on, passing another station. This one solar-powered, half buried in ash. Its antenna blinks a slow green rhythm. A digital heartbeat, pulsing through a satellite network, relaying data to someone far away. Somewhere, this pulse is received, logged, added to a puzzle that spans nations and decades. The work is slow, the work is essential. You sit at the edge of a crater now. Cold wind brushes your cheeks. Below, a plume of steam curls lazily from a vent. The volcano is quiet for now, but the instruments are never quiet. The watchers are always watching, and you understand something. To listen to the earth is not just science. It is an act of humility. To pay attention, to wait, to prepare. It is love. You close your eyes and listen, not with ears but with presence. Beneath you, deep and slow, the planet shifts, and somewhere, in the quietest corner of a lab, a scientist leans forward, noticing something new. You lie still, wrapped in warmth, as the earth below you hums in silence. But beneath your stillness, under the soil and crust and time-worn stone, a deep breath rises slowly, old as continents, powerful as memory. You are here now, in the age of science, cities, satellites. Yet the ground remembers. Imagine it, a supervolcano stirring. Not with panic, not with noise, but with the slow exhale of gases from quiet fumaroles, with the subtle swelling of land over months, years, as if the planet itself were dreaming and beginning to wake. The world has not forgotten what came before. Ash clouds that turned day into night, crops that failed under silent skies, animals that wandered, confused, across greyed-out plains. And yet, in the cradle of catastrophe, humanity endured. But today is different and not. You drift through imagined futures like leaves on wind. In one, sensors buried deep beneath Yellowstone murmur their warnings. Satellites whisper to earthbound screens, and scientists calm, precise, steadfast begin to map a plan. It begins not with panic, but with patterns, with data streamed from stations on distant calderas, with volcanic gas signatures, and shifting harmonic tremors like a language we're still learning to speak. Governments convene in quiet rooms, not to shout, but to listen, to maps, to models, to each other. Air traffic plans evolve overnight. Food reserves reroute, carefully. The media practiced now, shaped by decades of climate and crisis, speaks slowly, factually, like a lighthouse blinking in mist. You imagine evacuation not as chaos, but as choreography, a slow migration practiced, even rehearsed, of families, herds, hope. In one scenario, ash falls thick. You hear it in your mind, not like rain, but like whispers. A hush over fields, a veil across rooftops. Yet inside, people gather connected, informed. Solar panels dusted off each morning, hydroponics growing underground, masks handed from neighbor to neighbor, old knowledge married to new technology. The rhythm of response pulsing across continents. International aid flows not as desperation, but as agreement already drafted, already signed. The ash, though heavy, does not blind us. It tests us, and we are ready. You think of the global systems quietly at work even now. UN task forces designed for planetary scale emergencies. AI models mapping heat and breath across fault lines. Citizen scientists, thousands of them, sending ground reports from every edge of every caldera. No one outruns a super eruption, but no one need face it alone. You are part of this web, not just a listener under the stars, but a node in the net holding knowledge, empathy, and action. Even now, your awareness is part of the preparation. And what of tomorrow, you wonder? Not just the eruption, but the long grey after. In your vision, the sky's dim, but in the dimness, invention. Cold adapted crops, portable solar lights shared like fireflies, stories told to children about stars we can't see, but know are still there. The earth breathes change, and we, as we always have, adapt. You remember now how once a single seed survived a volcanic winter, and from it a forest grew. You remember that under each layer of ash, new soil is born. So perhaps the question is not whether we can survive another eruption, but how we choose to live with the possibility, not waiting in fear, but preparing in peace. Not denying the danger, but embracing our role as caretakers of each other. Could we withstand it? Yes, not alone, but together. Because science is not just a shield, it's a story of watching, of listening, of learning the deep breaths of a living planet. Because hope is not blind, it is informed. It studies patterns, it drills escape routes, it shares resources, it imagines better endings. And you, lying still under the imagined dust, feel the calm that comes from knowing that even the greatest forces of Earth meet the quiet, determined courage of those who prepare. This is not the end. This is vigilance. This is trust. This is us, woven into the pulse of a planet older than memory. And still the question lingers in the cooling air of your thoughts. Not with fear, but with wonder. What lies beneath our feet, and what rises from our minds?